Bro, this is how wars start. Like, I'm not saying that we specifically have not like been in some type of soft war with Cuba for many, many years, but this here is like has the ability to basically be the catalyst that sparks something bigger that none of us really want here, truthfully here, but I'm not sure Cuba would have the ability to kind of thwart, right? But either way, let's encounter the video immediately. Guys.
Take a look at this. This is from Cuba's Ministry of the Interior saying, quote, on the morning of February 25th, 2026, a violating speedboat was detected within Cuban territorial waters. The vessel, registered in Florida, United States, approached up to 1 nautical mile northeast of the El Pino Channel in Cayo Falcones. This is in the Villa Clara province when a surface unit of the border guard troops of the Ministry of the Interior carrying 5 service members approached the vessel for identification. The crew of the violating speedboat opened fire on the Cuban personnel, resulting in the injury of the commander of the Cuban vessel. As a consequence of the confrontation, as of the time of this report, 4 aggressors on the foreign vessel were killed and 6 were injured. The injured individuals were evacuated and received medical assistance.
All right, so getting the story like in full here. Okay, listen, how much do you believe? Like, first of all, if you are from Florida and you are basically dabbling for some reason in the, let's say the territorial waters of Cuba, why are you there? What are you doing? And why are you opening fire on people? Okay, firstly, if this story is 100% true, understand this here. I'm highly doubtful from nearly everything. Okay, I doubt everything. I question everything. It could be any type of scenario here. Now, if someone else was injured, specifically on the Cuban side, I understand why, let's say that they would absolutely return fire because they would have to, because you are being shot at, right? That makes sense here. But of course, by default, they had to, I guess, point out here that anyone that was injured, they were definitely evacuated and they definitely received, medical assistance here. That's the default. You kind of have to do that, or you have to say you're doing this here. But how much of this is true, I have no idea, guys. But I definitely do not like the idea that if you are specifically coming from the United States of America, why are you doing this in Cuba's waters, right? Like, why are you there in the first place? Let's just be completely honest here. You know exactly what's going on kind of between us right now, country to country. You need to pay attention to what the U.S. State Department is basically saying in terms of your ability to travel to certain places and to know that there are definitely some hostilities kind of happening kind of within the region. So maybe you need to kind of dial it back just a tad bit here, guys. But either way, let's encounter it.
And we are continuing to share with you some of the responses we just heard from Representative Espaillat. But take a look at this. This is another representative right here saying the dictatorship in Cuba has just attacked a boat from Florida and those on board. This regime must be relegated to the dustbin of history. So we did want to share with you some breaking news after Cuba says that 4 were killed after a speedboat from Florida entered Cuban waters. We're also keeping a very close eye on all of the Trump administration's social media posts.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
Himself and
just
cabinet members to respond to this breaking news.
Like an hour ago.
I want to share with you, and I'm going to put up that statement from the Cuban embassy from the United States with more of that information, as they have reported that a violating speedboat was detected within Cuban territorial waters. That vessel registered in Florida, United States. They were saying that when a surface unit of the border guard troops of the Ministry of the Interior carrying 5 service members approached the vessel for identification, the crew of the violating speedboat opened fire on the Cuban personnel, resulting in the injury of the commander of the Cuban vessel as a consequence of the confrontation. As of the time of this report, 4 aggressors on the foreign vessel were killed and 6 were injured. The injured individuals were evacuated and received medical assistance. So that specific statement is
that's
from
the official statement.
Ministry of the Interior via the Cuban embassy in the United States. Any additional information, any other reaction, we will bring it to you right here
Okay.
On Live Now from Fox.
All right, guys, hold on. The problem is that generally, again, I do not believe a single thing that is generally being said, specifically being pushed out by some type of like dictatorial like nation state. Like, be fully aware that is something that I generally have an issue with believing, because if you treat your people the way you treat your people, why would I believe anything that you say? You're going to come off to me as like, I don't know, bro, the Ayatollah or something, bro. Like, you're going to say whatever needs to be said for the sole purpose of, coddling your base or kind of making you look better here. I'm gonna be honest here. It is hostile times that we're currently in regards to Cuba. If you are an American on a boat, they recognize Florida tag registration numbers. They're just like, hold on. Are the Americans trying to invade us with a speedboat? Okay. And they're just like, hold on. We need your identification. And then what do they do here by default? Because they can really do nothing else. They see one speedboat. They try to annihilate them, bro. I don't believe any of this, guys. All right. You can kind of take that how you want to take it, but I generally have an issue with believing a group of people that are basically that treat their people like the way they treat their people, all right? And then expect me to believe whatever you're basically saying. But here, guys, we have another video here. Hold on. So this just happened. I think by the time I post this here, it'll probably be about an hour. But something else, it's like some new information's here also. Hold on. This is from 23 minutes ago. Let's encounter it.
And that the commander of the Cuban vessel was injured. The ministry says the troops then returned fire. 4 people aboard that boat and injuring 6 others in the confrontation. The injured have been taken back to Cuba to be treated medically. Again, this is all coming right now from the Cuban government. So as we get more information, we will bring it to you. I do want to bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. And Gabe, this is such a serious situation because of the rhetoric between the United States and the Cuban government. Just recently, I think less than 2 weeks ago, the Cuban president, the leader of Cuba, saying that Cuba was ready for war with the United States in the wake of what's happened in Venezuela, and that they were on alert for anything that might happen there. Again, sometimes these incidents happen in those waters. We should mention the location where this happened was very close to the Bahamian border as well, where there's usually lots of both smuggling and people smuggling as well. Cubans trying to flee the communist oppression there. What do we know right now coming from either our Coast Guard or the White House right now, Gabe?
Well, Tom, there are a lot of unanswered questions right now. We are out to White House officials trying to get any more details on this. But so far, as you said, all we know is from the Cuban side at this point. They say 4 people are dead and 6 others on that boat, which was registered in Florida, have been injured. And also, Tom, another border guard troop from the Cuban side was also wounded, according to the Cuban government. Now, this all comes, as you said, amid ramped up tensions between the two countries in the wake of the capture of Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. There have been significant fuel shortages in Cuba over the last few weeks, and there have been questions about what the U.S. plans to do next year. The president himself recently saying that he expects the Cuban government to fall. And Tom, right now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in the Caribbean, in the island of St. Kitts and Nevis, meeting with Caribbean leaders. Again, we're out to the State Department as well for any comment. But Tom, a lot of unanswered questions here about who exactly was on that boat and what led to this confrontation.
And Gabe, right now, the only information we're getting from the U.S. government is coming from elected representatives in Congress from South Florida who are putting this news out there. But again, we're not hearing from the State Department or anyone else just yet.
Not yet. Again, we're still awaiting any confirmation about who exactly was on that boat. But it comes as, you know, there has been this huge military buildup on the other side of the Caribbean. And also the Trump administration has been really escalating its rhetoric towards the Cuban government. Secretary of State Rubio, of course, is Cuban American and has made a large part of his political career being very, wanting to topple essentially the Cuban government, the communist government there. But again, at this point, we do not have any details about who was on that boat.
We thank you. As we look at this map here, I'm going to bring in Jose Diaz-Balart. Guys, let's put that map back up. I want to show the viewers exactly where this is happening right now. Jose, talk our viewers through the location here, right? Because again, where you see that little white dot at the top of northwest Cuba, This is where the incident, according to the Cubans, happened, 1 nautical mile off those keys off the north of Cuba. So this is very close to the Bahamian border. Again, Sal Bank, which is an area people go to fish, but also people where they go to drop off sometimes Cubans that they're smuggling, Cuban refugees that are trying to leave the island. Jose, we can't stress enough, this is such a sort of strenuous time right now between the U.S. and Cuba, and Cuba has made it very clear they are on alert for any type of U.S. attack.
Yeah, and that's
or any
my
type of
concern,
incursion that would happen
guys.
in their country.
Indeed, Tom. And, you know, it's striking to remember sometimes that Cuba is 90 miles away from Key West. And
Right.
so the
That's
proximity
close,
of
guys.
the island to not only Florida, but to the Bahamas, which is really a skip and a jump away. There are a lot of questions. And so far, the only source about this incident comes from the Cuban regime. Important to recognize and also remember that that regime has oftentimes utilized humans for political purposes, sometimes releasing political prisoners when an American celebrity comes to the island, or some person who requests that some political prisoners are released. We have to also remember that it was the 24th of February, 1996, 30 years ago yesterday, that 2 small Cessnas from Brothers to the Rescue, a South Florida organization that was seeking rafters leaving the island, was shot down over international waters by the Cuban regime.
Over international
People were
waters,
killed,
guys.
3 citizens, 1 American resident.
Yeah, a lot of unanswered questions here, including why there were so many people on that boat and why they fired back. A lot of times in these smuggling incidents, they leave. This is going to conclude this NBC News special.
Okay, yeah. See, this is why I find it hard. Like, if the only information is coming from a very hostile, like dictatorial type of authoritarian government, how much of that do you believe? I don't believe none of it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't. And will we ever know the truth? We may know the truth from the people who made it, if that makes any sense. Hopefully, if we can ever see them again, hopefully, if that makes any sense here, guys, right? We're going to have to get those people back so we can kind of get some insight onto what exactly it is that has occurred here. But no, based off of the initial reporting, specifically coming from the Cuban government, I don't believe it at all. But we do know, obviously, there are incredibly hostile, like it's a very hostile environment right now. And it could be they thought that the United States of America was invading them with a speedboat and 10 people. Right? Understand this here. Like it could be that plausible. But I'm not sure we would actually do anything that absolutely silly, though. Like, you wouldn't see us coming, bro. All right? So what you just did here could easily spark something crazy. We're just definitely waiting on Trump's response, because I know he's going to respond, and it's going to be absolutely crazy, guys. Like, don't be surprised, my guys. All right? Don't be surprised. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. If there is any more to the story, we will definitely, in fact, be covering that, guys. All right? In the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.